Hello, welcome to another Hutchings Consultants podcast, Sellers Marketing Options. Today's podcast is designed to appeal to pharmacy owners who are thinking about selling their pharmacy business in the next few years and want to understand the different options available when it comes to the marketing of their pharmacy business. In this short podcast, we will briefly explain the process of how to take your pharmacy to the market and the different marketing options available, including full marketing, restricted marketing, and off-market approaches to potential buyers, as well as private deals. My name is Sam Barlow, and I'm joined today by two of my colleagues, Director Scott Hayton.
Hi there, Sam.
Hi, Scott. And Senior Pharmacy Consultant Paul Steet.
Hi, Sam.
Hey, Paul. Both Scott and Paul are involved in valuing and selling pharmacies on a daily basis throughout the UK and are keen to share their wealth of experience with you. Scott, before we cover the different approaches to marketing that I've just mentioned, you wanted to briefly run through what happens before you get to the point of launching the pharmacy for sale.
Absolutely, Sam. So the first step from our perspective is to undertake a valuation for the pharmacy owner. Now, to do that, we'll need various bits of information for the valuation, and we've covered some of that in a previous podcast called Preparing Your Pharmacy for Sale.
Yes. Okay. So I will actually put a link to it on the description of this podcast. So anyone that wants to listen to that in more detail can look in the description and head over there now. Brilliant.
Fantastic. So, I mean, it's essentially, accounts and NHS statements and that kind of thing. But once we've completed that exercise, then we will feed back to the client, give them a price recommendation, and then we will look to arrange a meeting with them whereby we can discuss that in some more detail and gain a better understanding of the business and their objectives for the sale, which is critical really for the next step, which is talking through all of these options for the marketing and deciding which is going to be the best, A, for their business, and B, to actually achieve their goals and their objectives.
Yeah, okay.
So from there, we would come away and we would prepare the marketing materials. That's prepared in conjunction with the client. So we'd work on it together. Once they're happy with the documentation and happy for us to proceed, that's the point at which we would actually launch and start approaching buyers.
Okay, great. Thanks, Scott. So can you tell me more about these marketing options then?
Yes, Sam. The most common and usually preferred approach by most of our clients is the full marketing approach. So we would initially create a confidential website listing on our website, which could have a photograph of the pharmacy or pharmacies, or may not, depending on what the client prefers us to do.
For confidentiality reasons?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
yes.
sure.
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
So some of our clients are happy to list with a photo, some aren't. So we'll abide obviously by what they want to do. We then make approaches to an initial shortlist of buyers that we've created from our large database. Those buyers will be active in the marketplace. They would have been financially qualified. We look at their requirements. Do they match the opportunity that we're presenting to them? We could also look at buyers that may be located geographically close.
Geographically close?
Yes, that we quite often find that those buyers that they want to be within sort of short travelling distance to where they may be working. So that's obviously quite attractive proposition for them. What we then do, as I say, is make approaches to those buyers. Depending on how those approaches go, we can very quickly step up the process where eventually we can end up approaching the whole of the database in a confidential manner if need be. So during that marketing process, viewings are taking place, feedback's gathered and given back to our clients, and we usually come to a point where we feel it's appropriate to invite offers in from buyers, which we do formally with written offers. We secure their proof of funding, and assuming there's an offer there which is acceptable to our client, we'll then accept an offer, create heads of terms, look to secure a deposit for the client, and then we move over to the due diligence stage where solicitors are instructed, and our role goes from one of a marketing approach to a sales progression approach. So we're there right through to completion.
Okay, so one of the first things you mentioned there was approaching buyers directly. Do you have then a preferred buyers list, or how does that work?
It depends what you mean by preferred to the buyers list. I mean, we don't. We work very closely with buyers and we vet them, but we don't have a special list that any payment's been taken to go onto that list or anything like that. Which
it can happen across the market, can't it? Where I think you can pay an amount of money in order to receive a set of details before the rest of the market. So we certainly don't do anything like that.
Sure, okay.
But we do work, there are some very good buyers out there that are registered with us, and we, some that we do work with on a regular basis. They may be preferred to us in that sense because they've got plenty of money behind them, they're well backed, they're very experienced, they're very easy to work with. So preferred in that sense, yes.
We also share buyer knowledge between the team. So each of the consultants, as I say, we all work very, very closely together as a team. So again, if there's a positive experience or occasionally a negative experience, we will sort of share that within the team, and that we do consider that when we are making approaches to buyers. So that does come into our thinking as well. And finally, just to make our listeners aware, all buyers that register with us, they sign our confidentiality agreement and non-disclosure agreement. So the key there is to remind buyers that they are receiving confidential information and that they should treat it as such, and that's important to us as well, and very important to our clients.
Yeah, so with all marketing approaches that you're talking about, whether it's the fullest or the most restricted, it's always done with confidentiality in mind first and foremost. Absolutely. That's
the forefront of our thinking.
And then we've got the restricted marketing option as well, which essentially is as it sounds. The seller may be particularly concerned about confidentiality. They may choose to forego the website listing, for example, and they may want to restrict the number of parties that we're approaching or the types of buyer that we're approaching. You may only want to approach group owners, for example, something like that. We wouldn't normally advise that approach because it does limit your potential buyers. It can prolong the length of time that it takes for you to agree a sale. And as a result of that, because, what we're trying to do is to generate a competitive bidding environment so that we can get the very best results, get as many offers as possible so that we've got more people to negotiate. So it can actually have an impact on that process as well, and the ultimate price that you achieve for the business.
Okay, and so this decision then comes down to the priorities of the seller?
Exactly, yeah. It's a matter for discussion. If they've got a particular concern about the confidentiality, if that is more important to them than the price element, then we can certainly work in that way. It's not a problem. We discuss it, we make a recommendation, and we'll agree a strategy and the best way forwards for everyone.
Okay, so those approaches both make sense to me. But then what, Paul, is off-market marketing?
Good question, Sam. Off-market marketing is say another obviously approach that we have. It's not always appropriate in every case, and it may not even be viable either in every case. But it's particularly useful where, for example, we've identified a particular buyer or buyers for a pharmacy business, and also it can be used where a seller has a particular concern around confidentiality.
Sure. Okay. So it comes down to having potentially, perfect buyers that you know of and lined up. That's one scenario, and the other is when confidentiality really is the top priority for a seller.
Absolutely, and I think in terms of the first scenario with buyers, we'd look to ensure that those buyers, they've got the capability of the purchase. They have signed our NDAs, confidentiality agreements, and we are confident in making that approach to them and recommending that to you as our client.
So, with the off-market approach, then, what happens if an acceptable offer isn't made or agreed?
Well, although we would normally expect for this party to actually put their best offer forwards. Obviously, if they don't, then they're going to lose out on this opportunity. We will have made them aware that, if they're not coming forwards with something, there is a plan to carry out a wider marketing activity. If they don't, then you have a number of options. You could either apply the same approach to another buyer and have another crack at it. Or you could revert to either of the other two marketing options that we've discussed earlier and just expand things.
Okay, so have you, either of you, I guess, have you completed on any off-market sales recently?
Yes, Sam, we have, in fact. We've recently completed on a sale in the West Midlands, which was a sale agreed to a particularly interested party. Seller achieved a price over £40,000 in excess of the marketing price, and also benefited from the high level of confidentiality that this sale route could offer him.
Okay, well, that sounds like a great result. I also wanted to today look at private deals, which some of our listeners may be considering undertaking. Do you guys have any advice for anyone looking at private deals or considering that now?
Yeah, I do. Just be a little bit careful about it, I think. I think we all know that it's something that goes on quite a bit within the market. Quite a lot of kind of letters going out and private approaches being made. It is a route for a seller that could appear to be an easy option, but can also be fraught with difficulties. And we have seen quite a lot of that in the past. People who've tried to go down that route, it's not worked out, and then they've come back to us to seek our assistance. In going this route, I think for most pharmacy owners who won't have sold a business before in the past, it's going to be difficult for them to navigate and negotiate. The buyer is unlikely to offer the best price, I think, if they're aware that they haven't got any other competition, they haven't got an agent acting for them. And for the seller, it's very, very difficult for them to gauge that offer. They've got nothing else to compare it against. No other offers, no other interest. You're dealing with one party. It's easy to get backed into a corner, and you've got no backup if it all falls through. So it's quite often what happens is it falls through. Someone comes to us, and they've incurred a lot of legal fees and wasted a lot of time.
I think also in terms of what you mentioned there, Scott, about best prices, we are aware of a group in particular who are making direct approaches to pharmacy owners. This particular group in mind, they've sort of offered through us recently, and their offers have been around 20% below that of the other offers on the table. So in that sort of scenario, if you're that seller approached by a particular party, that's a scenario. From the buyer's position, they're aware that the pharmacy isn't on the open market, and they may use this knowledge to their advantage.
Okay, so the biggest risk, really, I'm hearing there of going down the private deal route is the potential to undersell your business, but potentially quite significantly. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's no doubt about it. We also find, I think, how buyers act during a sale is very, very important as well. I think that can, if there's difficulties during the sale, that can add to the stress. And we're aware that buyers and whether they be groups or first-time buyers, for example, they're more likely to act reasonably when buying for us, as otherwise they risk being excluded from other opportunities in the future.
I think another important consideration for sellers is the amount of time that it actually takes to handle the sale, to negotiate, deal with all of this, put it with the solicitors, do all the due diligence, all of this. And it's a very, very difficult thing, I think, for a seller to handle while they're also trying to run and maintain the business. If those numbers suffer, then the buyer is going to come back and try and adjust things. So that's the whole reason, really, for instructing an agent, someone who can take this on, take it off your hands, deal with the whole process, and avoid those bits and pieces that we've mentioned earlier. Ensure that you are dealing with more than one party. You're making sure that you've got an accurate reflection of the market, so that you know that you're not underselling, and all of the key points are in the agreement for you.
One final point I wanted to mention or sort of highlight is situations that we come across occasionally where, speaking to potential sellers, they mention that they've either been approached by their pharmacy manager or a locum that they've used about potentially selling the business to them. in our experience, whilst there may be a sort of desire to buy, quite often the financial capability isn't there. So what we sort of tend to recommend in that sort of scenario is that we would still include them in our marketing. We would still keep the manager or the locum certainly involved, and we would try to assist them and introduce them where appropriate to perhaps finance brokers or banks that can help with the funding. But we would recommend that we sort of take one of the other approaches that we sort of suggested already, but just based, as I say, on experience. I can think of one sort of very quick example. I was selling a pharmacy down in Sussex, and exactly this situation happened. Pharmacy manager was very, very interested, and we included them all in the offer process. In the final part of the marketing, they sort of bowed out gracefully, as they were unable to get the funding that they required. So,
really?
But I think it was nice because my client, the seller, sort of felt that he had done as much as he could do to assist his work colleague, and although he did sell to another party, he sort of walked away knowing that he did all he could, and that's all he can do in that situation.
And I imagine that he'd walked away with ultimately the best deal for the value of his business.
Absolutely, yes, he did. Sure. Yes, yeah.
But equally, it's up to the seller, isn't it? I mean, once you've got those offers on the table, if the manager or the locum is a little bit less, I mean, it's down to the seller if he wants to accept that and take that difference and help them out.
Quite right. Yeah.
But at least you understand the difference, and
you've got
the numbers straight in your mind.
Yeah, you've got a comparison, in offers. If as you say, if the offer isn't quite there, but it's up to the seller. If that's that for any other reason they want to sell to that party, then that's finally their choice.
Okay, thank you, Scott and Paul. We've now come to the end of this podcast, covering the options for sellers when it comes to marketing your pharmacy business for sale. There may be listeners who have questions as a result of the points that have been highlighted, and if this applies to you, please do not hesitate to contact either Paul or Scott, who will be pleased to help you with your inquiry. Hutchings Consultants, together with our sister company, Hutchings Accountants, offer a range of services including a free verbal valuation, free tax review, and are able to work with sellers pre-sale to ensure that our clients optimize the sale price they can achieve. We have also launched an exciting new Help to Sell scheme designed to reduce the potential risk financially for sellers. And if you would like to discuss any of these points further, please do not hesitate to contact us. Our contact details can be found on our website, which is hutchingsconsultants.com. And I will also put both Paul and Scott's email addresses in the description of this video, so you can contact them directly if that's okay with you both.
Of course.
Of course.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you for listening, and we hope you found it useful. We look forward to speaking to you soon.